All right, and welcome to the Collapse Experiment. Didn't think I was going to be able to get a show done today. I did have to cancel a previous post that I had for 8:30, and turns out I was able to do this just after 10. So, uh, do have some news to go over today. I do want to start out with Netflix just lost 25% of their stock value because they're losing viewers. I wonder why. They did have that recent piece of garbage that they put out with, it was The Rock and, that dude from Deadpool. And somehow they were supposed to be like a witty banter duo of jewel thieves with horrible plot twist. I got up and left like 5 minutes into the movie. I left it on in the background as like noise, and then I'd casually glance over and go, "This is the worst fight scene I've ever seen choreographed." And I've seen a lot of Hong Kong films. And honestly, Hong Kong films have better fight choreography than 90% of the crap Hollywood puts out. So no surprise there. Um, I did see a horrible, and I hope this was a joke. Netflix was saying that they were going to start doing advertising on their streaming service. It's the one thing I hate about Hulu. Is these stupid ads? Even during a movie, they pop in at stupid times during the movie, where all of a sudden you're watching something about like acid reflux or the adult diaper that works for you. It's the weirdest ad campaigns ever on Hulu. I just If Netflix goes in that direction, I really think that at this point HBO Max, even though they have the Batman, might actually be winning out on the streaming service war. There's so many services. Uh, if you sign up for all of them, you're basically paying for cable at this point, which it's like having a landline phone. Who pays for cable these days? Um, Alex Jones did not file for bankruptcy. That is a lie. It was Chapter 11 protection. It's what he's saying. There's a lengthy video that he does where he's explaining all the details about filing for Chapter 11. It was really two reasons. One, to get creditors off of his back who are claiming that he had money that he doesn't have. And it was also because a lot of these companies that he owes money to were saying that, openly saying that, well, we know that he's got $15 million. And Jones is like, no, we have about three. And if it wasn't for Hillary Clinton and the interdimensional transgender sex demons, we'd probably be worth like 12. uh, Gotta love Alex Jones. Save the frogs. In other news, these are articles that are posted on the collapseexperiment.com. You can check them out there in full. I'm done talking. MSNBC analyst quits to fight Russians in Ukraine. I did see a prior video from this guy who was in the middle of an airstrike when it was happening. They could literally see cruise missiles flying over them while they're trying to record in a city. But anyways, from virtue signaling to taking action, a former MSNBC foreign affairs analyst ditched the teleprompter for a full-body Kevlar suit, rifle, and allegedly joined an international legion to fight alongside the armed forces of Ukraine against Russia. On Monday night, Malcolm Nance, a longtime analyst for the network and former U.S. Naval Intelligence officer, appeared on NBC's The Readout, hosted by Joy Reid. Okay. Nance told Reed that he had joined the International Legion of Territorial Defense in Ukraine. And there appears to be a clip on here. The International Legion has more than 20,000 volunteers from 52 countries who enlisted to help Ukraine repel Russian forces from the war-torn country. So there is a photo of him on Twitter where he says, "I'm done talking." He's got a lot of the same gear that our guys would have if we were over there. I noticed. He's 60. The 61-year-old has authored several books that accuse Russia of planning to destroy democracy and getting Donald Trump elected president to betray America. Okay. Reed asked Nance whether he was in any special danger because you, quote, clearly are not Ukrainian when they see you. I should probably point out here that he's a middle-aged black man. So I guess if Russians kill him, that just proves that Russia's racist and we can send BLM over to take care of the problem. Yeah. So anyways, interesting. Now, I guess he's not a reporter. They're making it sound like an actual reporter, but he's an analyst for a news network and former military himself. Here is an interesting one. I love the title for this. Woke investors threaten the West security. This is through Zero Hedge, submitted by Rupert Darwall. Since Russia attacked Ukraine 2 months ago, Western governments have been learning the hard way about the critical importance of energy to their national security. No, we haven't. Germany's 20-year, trillion-dollar Energiewende energy transformation has made its economy totally dependent on supplies of Russian natural gas and paralyzed its response to Russian aggression. No kidding. French President Emmanuel Macron faces a tougher re-election fight this month thanks to soaring energy prices and failure to replace the nation's aging fleet of nuclear-powered stations. The Biden administration is tapping America's strategic petroleum reserve in an effort to tamp down energy costs as inflation heads towards double digits. Apparently, when they were writing this one, they didn't find out where that oil was really going. As the West grapples with the energy implications of a hostile Sino-Russia alliance, the steering group of the Net Zero Asset Owner Alliance, whose members manage over $10.4 trillion of assets, issued a statement urging Western governments not to sacrifice climate goals for energy security. Translation, they want to kill people. That's what it comes down to. They're asking Western nations, some people are going to die, but this is for the greater good. It's kind of like if you've ever seen the movie or read the comic Watchmen, what was it? You killed millions to save billions. The world is still heading for an excess of fossil fuel-based energy use that will vastly exceed the carbon budget needed to meet the 1.5 Celsius Paris Agreement goal. The trend must be halted, the United Nations-backed alliance said in its April 8th statement, arguing that the national security argument for accelerating the net zero transition has strengthened considerably. I guess they don't really pay attention to history all that much. At times where the climate has cooled, you have a massive die-off because people can't grow anything. When it's hotter, you have more carbon, the leaves end up becoming bigger on plants. There's actually more absorption through the trees and plants due to the high rate of carbon. Yes, it's hotter, but then you end up with like more rain due to evaporation. The warming of the planet overall, I wouldn't say that was necessarily a bad thing. It's not like the water in the oceans is going to disappear. I don't know where they get this idea that, oh, it's just going to become a desert. I seem to think that tropical regions are fairly warm, and there's a lot of the Amazon. The Amazon's not exactly located in the Arctic. So, yeah, woke investors threaten the West's security. That is true. This whole it's weird. If you ask Biden, is global warming bad? He'd say yes. Should we use nuclear war weapons on Russia? He would say yes. That's oh my god. Moving on, global rice production set to plunge 10%, threatening half of humanity. I think, did this change? I don't remember it saying that. Oh man, farmers in China, India, Bangladesh, Indonesia, and Vietnam, the largest rice producing countries, would experience reduced output due to soaring fertilizer prices. Yeah, the International Rice Research Institute warns that harvest could plunge as much as 10% in the next season, equating to about 36 million tons of rice, or enough food to feed 500 million people, according to Bloomberg. Chemical fertilizers such as nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium are the most applied nutrients for high yielding rice cultivation. Farmers have been particularly vulnerable to soaring fertilizer prices as some have reduced the amount of nutrients to save costs. This threatens future harvests as production declines could stroke food inflation for a crop that feeds half of humanity. Okay, so the title is a play on words. Um, yeah, it goes towards feeding half of humanity, but half of humanity is not going to die due to a 10% drop. Just means that rice is going to become more expensive and poorer countries are not going to be able to get their hands on it. Um, and the weird thing is, rice prices have fallen in the past year, unlike other major crops. So that's just going to join the price increase of wheat, which looks like it's up 78%, palm oil 69%, corn 38%. Thanks, Biden. Your ethanol addition is going to spike corn even higher. Congratulations. And soybeans. Actually, I feel like soybeans should be higher because vegetable oil is the most used oil in Asian countries for cooking. They also eat a lot of soy and soy based products. So I'm really surprised that soy is only at a 21% increase, but that could always change. So, yeah, rice production, rice is going to catch up with all the other crops that are increasing in price. Uh, um, Actually, these two kind of go together. EU to impose full embargo on Russian oil next week. Nothing like punching yourself in the face when things are already bad. Will send price above $185 a barrel, according to JP Morgan. Yeah, because that's gonna help. And that's, if that is true, that'll do absolutely nothing for the Biden administration releasing oil from the strategic reserves. So, this was updated. So, this is the newest version of this article. What was largely a theoretical modeling exercise until moments ago is set to go live because Reuters, I'm not really sure how to pronounce that, reports that the EU is set to decide a full embargo on Russian oil after this week's French election. Weird. It's almost like they're waiting to see if Macron keeps his seat or not. Huh. EU gas price to shoot up as EU to declare embargo on Russian oil after French election next week. Why do they repeat themselves on this? Why wait until after the election to launch the embargo? It's simple. Europe's bureaucrats are correctly terrified that the coming oil price spike to push the vote in Le Pen's favor, which is why Europe will wait until after the election. It's always politics with these people. When Macron will supposedly be the next president of France, as Belgium hopes, to announce it publicly. Yeah. So I think this article should probably be shared a lot in France. Just saying. Um, Not a fan of Le Pen, but she's the one that's saying we should probably just keep out of what's going on between Ukraine and Russia. That's their fight. Like, why are we involved? Not a bad policy. Just saying. Despite the clear indications of Western government to cripple Russian energy production, loads of Russian oil so far have been surprisingly resilient, so much so that Russia's current account balance is at an all-time high. So they're stockpiling the one thing that they say they're going to embargo. They're paying now so that they don't have to pay later, and it gives Russia more money at the moment to wage the war in Ukraine. Brilliant. February, before the start of the war, remarkably, J.P. Morgan calculated that Russian crude exports are averaging, let's see here, above pre-invasion volumes, while exports of oil products like fuel oil, naphtha, never heard of that, and VGO have declined. As previously observed, the decline in product exports combined with a drop in Russian domestic oil demand has resulted in Russia refineries cutting runs. Okay, so anyways, Russia is exporting to the EU still. They're stockpiling stuff to stop buying later. It's it just seems insanely stupid to me. And, for them to wait for the French election only goes to show that they're not really serious about this. If they really had any issues with Ukraine, they would have already implemented this, and they could have convinced the French people it was for their own good. I mean, that's what our government does. It's like, we're going to do this. We're going to slap you in the face with all these mandates, but it is for your own good because your government loves you. And waiting for you to stop laughing now. German industry fears immediate Russian gas ban. So this ties into the other article. This is from oilprice.com. As Europe continues to consider a ban on Russian energy exports, German business and unions are joining forces in opposition, warning that an immediate Russian natural gas ban would have a severe negative impact on industry and jobs. You think? Germany boasts the largest economy in the 27-nation European Union and resisted a ban on Russian energy imports, opting instead for a strategy that would seek to gradually phase out Russian oil by the year end of 2022 and Russian gas imports within 2 years. Yeah. If you think things are bad now, wait until the entire German economy shuts down. Hitler 2.0 coming to you soon. What I don't want to see is a bunch of pissed off Germans without jobs and somebody coming in going, I remember when this country was great. Do you remember the Volkswagen? The people's car, ZA. Some 40% of the European Union's natural gas and some 20% of its oil now comes from Russia, mostly through pipelines. So there's absolutely no way that the United States, even with Biden handing over our strategic preserves, it doesn't do anything to counter what Russia could just immediately pump into the country. This is completely ridiculous. And Germany has every reason to be pissed off. Well, I fixed it. All right. 1/3 of Ukraine farmland may go unplanted as Russia begins second phase of war. We already knew that was coming. I don't know why somebody is getting paid to talk about this again. This is by Tyler Durden at Zero Hedge. So apparently somebody at Zero Hedge was bored. About one-third of Ukraine's farmlands may not be harvested or cultivated this year as Russia begins the second phase of the conflict in the war-torn country. We were already expecting that, weirdos. The Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations noted in a report on Tuesday that the vast destruction of crops and infrastructure due to the war jeopardizes food production. They also estimated about 33% of crops and agricultural land may not be harvested because of the escalating war. That's because their tractors are too busy towing Russian tanks. In March, Ukraine President Zelensky urged farmers to sow as many fields as possible to protect the food supply, but that appears to be a challenging task considering the displacement of people, labor shortage, bombed out fields, severely damaged infrastructure, and shortage of everything diesel, seeds, and fertilizer. Yeah, there's also that diesel shortage that's going on that nobody's talking about. Ukraine is considered the world's second largest shipper of grains and biggest exporter of sunflower oil. I love how they talk about sunflower oil. I have literally never used sunflower oil ever for cooking. I've never used it. Apparently it's good, I guess. I don't know. Never experienced sunflower oil. The planting season has already begun. Its crops production is vital to the global food supply. Yep. So again, just adding to the stories of the coming famine. That'll be another boost to Germany's culture, is having hungry, angry, unemployed Germans seeking somebody to take them out of their misery. Let's see here. Supply chain hurdles will outlast. Oh, wait. Oh, maybe that was the last one. That might have been the last article. Thank God. All right. So, you got enough rice on hand. I actually have a lot more rice than I knew I had a lot. I didn't know I had as much as I do. Pineview, the Amish store by us, they had, I believe it was called Toro or El Toro. It was some type of rice that is primarily used in different restaurants, but it's shipped in boxes, and inside the box is a vacuum sealed bag with the rice, which is like the optimal way to store it for long periods of time. And I'm guessing the Amish are not big on rice because they were selling this stuff for super, super cheap. And each box was like well over a pound. So I ended up buying quite a bit of that and storing it away. It's in convenient packaging and easy to store away. It's not like having a 50-pound bag and you're wondering, like, where the heck am I going to dump this? So I bought some of that. For the longest time, I was getting the 3 and 5 pound bags from the store when they're still just over $1. Sushi grade rice, 30-pound bag from the Asian market I used to shop at. And the list kind of goes on and on. I've got a ton of rice. Not a literal ton, but I'm good to go for a while. The kids don't like it. The wife isn't all that fond of it. I like using it as like a base for other things that I'm cooking. Pour that on top of the rice, eat, you're good to go. So yeah, that's one thing I'm not lacking is rice. At least the Ukrainian government said the citizens don't need to claim captured Russian equipment on their taxes. Good luck collecting taxes, Ukraine, considering a good portion of your citizens are now in Poland and other neighboring countries. Sunflower oil is in a ton of prepared foods like granola bars. Well, that's good. I had no idea. So they use it as a binder, I'm guessing. And vegetable oil is soy, sunflower, and canola. I don't use vegetable oil either. My It does not agree with my stomach. I'm not big on deep frying or frying food for the most part. Even if I saute something, it's going to be in butter or olive oil. So, yeah, not a big fan of vegetable oil. And I know that there's other recipes that call for it, like if you're making brownies or other baked goods like that, they say to add vegetable oil. And I usually don't. I tend to use other things instead. The wife is big on using applesauce for different recipes, and we try to stay away from that. Vegetable oil is not good for you. it's it's literally like aside from corn oil. I don't know. Have you ever pressed corn to get the oil out? Because I haven't either. I still can't figure out for the most part where they came up with corn oil. Um, yeah. Vegetable oil and prepared foods. I mean, read labels. I don't cook with it either. Yeah. That's true. Yeah, I know that vegetable oil is in quite a bit of stuff, and I'm not saying I don't go to places that use it. It's just I've never used it at home. So I just know that it's widely popular for most of the planet. And overall, I don't really have anything else going on at the moment. It does look like update on the incubator. Possibly one egg might hatch. I do believe that within the first week or two, the incubator malfunctioned. It's an older model. If there's any fluctuation in room temperature, humidity, it you have to readjust it. And I try to keep an eye on this damn thing, but one morning I woke up and the thermometer was well over 100. I'm guessing maybe 110 at the highest. The eggs felt really warm. Turned it down immediately, let it air out to try to, in hopes that things didn't go bad. And unfortunately, it looks like a lot of the eggs just stopped. There is one that has continued to change, so I'm going to keep it going and hopefully that one will hatch. It's just horribly disappointing considering the condition the rooster's in. And I haven't seen him doing his rooster thing ever since the dog attack, and I don't know if he's down for the count now. Having a bad leg, I just don't see him doing his thing like he used to. So I'm hoping that one out of the six I have upstairs might turn out to be a rooster. Maybe this one that's in the incubator right now could possibly turn out to be a rooster. I don't know. It just sucks. I was hoping to get more, but when you're working with a $5 piece of equipment from the 70s, these are the kind of results that you end up getting. The rooster has been demoralized. Yeah, he's not himself. Um, limping around, hanging out by the feeder. Uh, he, I feel like he was involuntarily retired. He's just not himself. Even when he does crow, it's hate to say it, it's pretty pathetic. Even my wife said she thought she heard him one day, and she was like, "I thought the neighbors had goats or something." So yeah, even his crowing is just not what it used to be. Um, Still haven't figured anything out with the grouse that I found. I do know for sure that it just like nosedive straight into the ground. Um, it didn't have any marks on it. It didn't seem to be missing any feathers. So quickly buried it, and that's the end of that story. Will the hens brood the eggs? Have you tried that before? I have a couple of hens that act like they want to, but they also don't. They're very aggressive when they're on the eggs, but then you walk back 5 minutes later and they're no longer there. So um, I feel like some of them want to brood, but at the same time they don't. And at this point, nothing's going to be fertilized, so there's really no point in letting them brood eggs that are just going to sit there and go bad. It's a really disappointing situation with the chickens so far. Fortunately, there seems to be a lot of people in my area who are. There's one woman not too far from here. She was trying to sell 3 different roosters. Um, Not sure about the age or the breed. Doesn't really matter at this point. Just having some genetic diversity would probably be good. Unfortunately, I'd probably have to separate the rooster I have now from the rest of the flock if I was to do something like that. And already at the moment, I'm going to have a second run for the 6 birds I have upstairs. Um, I don't want to put them together until um, everyone is fully grown. There's obviously a pecking order. I do have one bird right now who is missing most of the feathers on her head and some on her tail due to being bullied. So once I have the second run up, I might move her into the other one. And hopefully she doesn't act like a dick and start beating up the little ones that I put out there. That's one concern that I have, but I do have to separate her to let her heal. Otherwise, I'm just going to end up losing another bird. But that's about it for the most part. Did discuss with the wife this morning about getting supplies to put a metal roof on the root cellar. Um, that is one task I really want to have done long before fall. Once the roof is on, and I know that the water is no longer leaking, the rainwater is no longer leaking inside. I can start building shelves and storage and do a few other things on the inside to get that prepared for winter. That's one of my goals. I need to have a place where if I'm doing winter squash, pumpkins, onions, potatoes, I need to have a root cellar to put that in so that we have food over the winter. People are usually willing to give away excess roosters. I usually just eat them since I'm not set up for keeping chickens. Well, that sucks, dude. Not that you're eating the roosters, that you're not set up for keeping chickens. I wish I had an area where I didn't have to keep them in a covered run. But at the same time, I keep coming across stories on YouTube of farmers who are losing their entire flocks due to avian flu. There's one guy in particular, he was talking about there were a couple of the birds that had gotten out of the run. Um, 2 were dead, and I think 1 was injured and later died. And then the next day, he found a couple more that were dead, and then he was like the numbers kept going up, and it became obvious that something was spreading in the coop. So um, that's something that is going on. I know some people are trying to say that the avian flu is made up and it's not real. It's just another excuse to cut the food supply. I don't know. I did see one article where it was talking about how one of these bioweapon labs was working on weaponizing the avian flu. I don't know why this version seems to be more aggressive and spreading easier than previous versions. And we did have a case in China where a man died of the avian flu, which I believe they're saying currently when humans get infected with it, it has a 50% mortality rate, which is far higher than most diseases that we deal with currently. I'm not sure what the numbers are for other things. People like to bring up Ebola, and I know that you can actually survive from that, and it's actually hard to get considering that it takes droplets and you have to come in direct contact with blood or bodily fluids. Um, as for avian flu, I'm guessing that's also droplet, and you have to come in direct contact, but um, to have a 50-50 chance when you catch it of dying, thankfully there's no cases of people getting it from people. I'd have to keep them in a pretty small run. Couldn't let them out. Way too many predators here in the deep woods. Yeah, that's one issue we have. The three biggest ones that we have to be concerned about are birds of prey, weasels, and skunks. Honestly, I haven't seen too many raccoons around here. I know raccoons will also get in there. I'm pretty convinced that the one that killed one of my Australian blackbirds was a skunk, just by the size of the hole that was bit through the fence. The fact that they ate 90% of the bird. Weasels tend to just eat the neck and then run off and leave the rest. Possums will eat the carcass if they come across it, but they don't usually eat or kill the chickens. And raccoons will, just like foxes, they'll have their what do they call that? It's like um, some type of frenzy where they'll go on a killing spree and not eat anything. I'm watching this avian flu pretty close so far. So far, as I've seen, it's spread through exposure to poop. Yeah, that's not good. I guess on the upside, my birds are in a well open area, and we don't have most of the birds I've noticed stick to the woods. The ones that are out in the field tend to be robins for the most part. We do have some bluebirds around here, but yeah, the only thing I've really seen by the coop would be the robins. So I don't know if I should be concerned or not. Nothing goes into the coop. But that doesn't mean that they don't come in close enough contact where they couldn't spread something. So yeah, and I did see another post recently talking about another food processing center caught on fire. Does anyone else think it's kind of fishy that during a time where we're looking at a food shortage, that the processing centers themselves are catching on fire, burning down, when during a time we don't need them to? I don't know what exactly is going on. But the conspiracy theories are flying, and that's something I'm gonna have to start looking into because I think there's some valid arguments when it comes to looking at things being posted by the World Economic Forum and Klaus Schwab and the people that seem to not like other people being on the planet. Um, 3 different types of weasels, black bear, fox, coyotes, and bobcats had a bear in the yard last night. I almost hit a bear with my car driving home from work the other day. But where I live, let's see here. We have bear. I've seen badger. That was, I'd say, a good 2 to 3 miles away from the property. So it's fair to say that they're probably in the area. As for on the property, skunk, possum. Haven't seen any signs of raccoon, but I'm pretty sure they're in the area as well. I know from the neighbors that we have weasels. Um, Also, one of my neighbors, who'd be, I don't know, maybe 200 yards away, he had a problem with black bears uh, in his yard because of a bird feeder. He had to get rid of the bird feeder, and the bear went away. I don't know. I've heard that bears have to be really hungry to try to go after a chicken coop. So it's not necessarily a concern. Plus, I don't want to have to deal with the DNR if I was to shoot a black bear who was attacking my chickens. Because, from my understanding, if you, let's see here, you don't have a license, it's out of season, they weren't trying to harm you, there's some serious consequences for doing such a thing. But at the same time, I also live in the middle of nowhere, and as long as my neighbors aren't home, I mean, all I'm saying is I'd protect my chickens, and the freezer might end up being filled up. Yeah, man, conspiracies are flying for sure. Exactly. There's way too much stuff going on right now that people aren't going to start thinking a lot of this stuff is deliberate. And to put it bluntly, there's a lot of things, especially coming from the White House, that are deliberate. I don't know what the EU is thinking at the moment, like shutting off gas from Russia. Granted, they probably think it's a good time because spring is coming and we don't have to heat our homes, and but that also means lack of fuel for cooking, um, power plants, so lack of electricity. Your gas stove turns off. At least you can plug it. Oh, nope, can't plug in the electric burner. And we live in Europe where there's not a whole hell of a lot of trees. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what's coming in the way from Europe with a lot of this stuff. I know that the third world countries are already hurting, but now it's starting to dwindle into the European countries. And yeah, this is going to be an interesting time. And I don't know why, but I remember during the 90s, even especially in my 20s, I had this like weird feeling that something something was coming our way. Like there was just too much stuff going on. There was too much corruption. Seeing how things operate, like the more jobs you have and you see how things function, and you ask yourself questions like, well, why, like, if we're supposed to have an open, robust economy, like, why would we do it this way instead of, this doesn't make a hell of a lot of sense to me. And I especially see it with the rise in the delivery service industry, where, like I've pointed out before, the mechanics are not allowed to keep parts for the trucks that we have to keep moving to keep not just our business running, but the rest of the economy. Like, if we don't have operating trucks, Amazon doesn't get their product to the person who ordered it. So it doesn't make a hell of a lot of sense to me to keep doing the supply chain system where it's you just order the part and it magically appears. Um, there was a time and a place where you would have shelves, and once that item came off the shelf, you would then order it, and then, you know, by the time that other part came in, hopefully another truck didn't have, I don't know, the brakes go out on it. Um, but instead it's, oh, this truck is broke, park it over there. We can't use it for the next week or two until the part comes in. In the meantime, you're down a driver, a route, um, less productivity. You're spending more on overtime because now drivers have to be out longer. You're worrying about the DOT hours when it comes to how long they're on the road because you still have just as many packages coming in, one less truck. And at one point, we were down 8, 9 trucks for our small center. We were borrowing trucks from other places to keep rolling. Let's see here. Timber Drifter, I felt like this whole show couldn't possibly keep going since the late 90s, but it has so far. And I've read a bit about the fall of Rome, and I know a lot of people like to show the comparisons and talk about that, but I think it does apply here where uh, when Rome was declining, one of the key factors that they noticed was that the decisions being made by let's just call it the Roman government, you had a lot of temporary solutions that fixed a current problem, but then caused a more serious problem down the road, which, in as they would say in hindsight, it was very easy to see, but perhaps they didn't know at the time. Watching what's going on now and seeing how the government reacts to different things, and hearing the hearing the people who are questioning these decisions, and their explanation saying, well, if you do this now, it's going to lead to, and then they're like, no, no, no. It's kind of like they keep printing money, and people are like, you're going to cause inflation. This is going to cause, you're going to cause massive inflation. No, it's modern monetary theory. Mm, economics has been established for a long time now. Like, we've known how economies work, and interest rates, and a lot of these things that we use to keep things flowing. And I think if the ideas in modern monetary theory, like, oh, well, the government's in charge of the currency, and as long as they're in charge of it, then we don't have to. Governments were always in charge of the currency. So trying to argue, I don't know why it's doing that now. Weird. Um, Trying to say that somehow changes inflation because the government regulates it, that might function in a place like China, where they can just hit a button and go, we just devalued our currency by 50%. The Congress and our government does not function that way. Like, they can't even agree to send Americans a $300 check while they shut down the economy. What they can agree on is spending $800 million on a foreign country, and it's currently at war with another nuclear power. That gets sent out right away. It shows who they care about. Let's see here. I bugged out to northeastern Wisconsin in 04. Early adopter here. Yes. I'm very familiar with that. So you're probably, I'm guessing, close to the UP, which is really, really remote. Um, I actually met a guy who was from the western side of the UP, like close to the Wisconsin border, and he was, how should I put it? His lack of personality and his awkwardness in a conversation kind of showed like how populated it was. um, but yeah, he was saying how absolutely remote that area is. That it's really not even. He would say that he was telling me people who live there really don't even consider themselves part of Michigan. Um, let's see here. We've been conditioned by movies, TV shows, and books to keep a sudden event that causes collapse. Yeah, that is true. I am one of the people who wrote one of those books, so I'm partially guilty here. Um, One thing I did try to keep in mind with After the Day was I knew it wasn't going to be one event. It had to be something more. So yeah, there was the one event that happened, which was a nuclear detonation in Washington D.C. But then within a week, the power across the country goes out, which of course nobody knows why that happened, who caused it, what caused it. But it's not going to be one event. So in my book, I specifically wanted to take out the leadership. At this point, you could say like Washington D.C. was nuked, and people would just be like, "You mean we're free now? We can do what we want." Um, but yeah, even with that, you're going to have local or state governments taking over positions of power. But if the power itself goes out and there's no communication, then it really becomes localized. And so that was what I aimed for in the book I had. And of course, with the power being out, that led to a pandemic of a flu that is pissing me off. Okay. Um, Turns out it's a long, slow decline. Yes, that is true. Not far from the border. All right. Um, yeah, well, if you just move, you could be a fellow Michigander, which I don't know. I don't know if you'd really. I mean, I'd probably rather be called a cheesehead than a Michigander at this point. Our governor sucks. Stay where you're at. Although I'm not so sure about the governor of Wisconsin either. Uh, yep. So long, slow, steady decline. It's kind of what we're looking at, and I think this summer overall is going to be bad. I think the more stuff that disappears from store shelves, um, I know that Walmart currently they're in the process of closing 150 stores nationwide. There's a lot of speculation that what they're doing in the meantime is taking the products that they have at these stores that are closing, moving them to other stores, which are going to make them appear to be fuller than they really are. It's really holding the contents of two stores at once uh, that for the people who live there is going to look good and make things seem more stable longer. But for the places where the stores have closed, it's there's going to be some divide. It's not going to look good. And granted, Walmart's not the only for most places. It's not the only game in town, but for a lot of other places, uh, unfortunately, Walmart's like the, the main economy. I think it was West Virginia. Like I think coal mining used to be like the number one employer, but now it's Walmart for the state. Doesn't really say a whole heck of a lot for West Virginia as to what's going on for jobs, but imagine Walmart's closing in a state like that. That's going to be devastating for several reasons. So I'll stay here for. Got some great friends here. They are starting to see what's going on. Some of them already knew. Yeah. I was hoping to get with some neighbors recently to. I don't know. How do you bring up a topic like that? I guess you can only hope that, through conversation that somebody else brings up like depleting store shelves or something. And I've had that conversation at work where people talk about like, when gas was well over $4 a gallon. Um, certain things were not being stocked at the stores around here where they're seeing the sudden price increases. And then I mentioned something about Shanghai being shut down and over 1,000 shipping uh, container ships being stuck over there, not allowed to leave because of the lockdown. The rising cost in fertilizer, which actually that's kind of a topic that they're talking about around here. Although we use manure spreaders in the fields around here. Dairy Dew is a big product that we have for compost, for gardens and farms. Um, so as for the fertilizer, that's not really hitting us. Um, I have a feeling Northern Michigan is, for the most part, going to be fine when it comes to what is happening with crops and the food supply issues. I do believe that one of the problems that we're going to come across is with the rising market value for what we're growing and producing. A lot of that's not going to stay around here. Granted, the farms are big enough; we have more than enough to feed, our area around us. But unfortunately, when you start seeing those checks coming in, it's like, you sell your corn and it's 50-60% more than it was last year, and you're thinking like, well, I need some more equipment, I need this, I need that. Yeah, sell all of it. um, I'm just curious to see how much of that is actually going to stay around here. And for the most part, it's like monocrops here. So we have smaller farms. We do have like a farmer's market. A lot of that seems to be small operations, though. You go out to a place like McBain, which is not far from here, huge fields, and the majority of it is just soy and corn. Not exactly the stuff that you're going to see in the Meyer produce section. You don't see a lot of green bell pepper plants, radish fields. Carrots are not going, although I'm surprised we don't have more carrot farms considering the sandy soil that we have. Don't grow anything major crops around here other than potatoes and cranberry. I'm surprised cranberry. I would think that we'd be too far north. Um, but then again, that's what a New England, like Maryland crop as well, which I guess that's going to be on our close to our latitude. So maybe I shouldn't be too surprised. But yeah, cranberries, potatoes were a big thing here where I live, but not so much anymore. Several little CSA farms local. Not too many here. I did see one a couple towns over. They actually did like deliveries. I would get to a house to deliver a package, and there'd be a plastic bag with some eggs and a few other things sitting on the porch. And the egg container had a stamp on it for a local CSA, but not my area. Not something that we have here. And in our town, I don't know if we would have enough people to even support something like that. I have a feeling most people say, "Well, I can grow that in my backyard," but 99% of them don't. Tends to be how it works. So, getting close to an hour here. Some people do not like the longer format or the live feeds. Other people, so I'm actually going to post another video I recorded prior to this. Afterwards. It's going to be a more condensed version of the news. Me not reading the articles, just discussing some of the things that I had glanced over and read. For those who don't want to watch an hour-long video or couldn't watch the live feed, and so perhaps I'll try doing two options instead of one. Another thing I was thinking about doing was trying to find clips from the live feeds to turn into smaller videos to post later. But I have a feeling that's a lot more work than I have time for, and I've got a lot of things to do around the house. And the only upside today is that my wife is actually going to be home during the afternoon, and I can do stuff outside instead of being stuck in the house while the kid's napping. So, um, yeah, that's about it for me. Wisconsin is the largest cranberry producer, 6 farms right here, Zone 3B. I had no idea. I thought you just produced cheese, but that's somebody ignorant outside of your state, just going by what football people say. So I don't even watch football, so I don't know why I would believe anything that a bunch of people who watch that stuff say. And beer. Don't you guys like that's like the big beer brewing state, right? Uh, we produce a lot of beer too, but like what Anheuser-Busch, Budweiser, like aren't a lot of those based in Wisconsin? So although I don't know, they make it out of rice, so can you really say that it's beer? Questionable. All right. That's about it for now. Hope everyone takes care and enjoy the rest of your day. Lots of beer for sure. Well, have one for me because I'm going to be busy. Keep on typing.